My name is Marcia Robinson, and we are recording an oral history with Professor Harlan Ed Fiehler as part of the Sweet MUMories Oral History Project to mark the 50th anniversary of the Miami University Middletown, Ohio campus. This interview is taking place on September 3rd, 2016 in Johnston Hall. Professor Fiehler, do I have your consent to proceed with this interview?
Yes.
Thank you. So we understand that you are one of the first faculty to teach here at the campus. How did you find the Middletown campus and how did you come to join the faculty?
How did you find the campus?
Right. How did you learn about the job opening?
Do I repeat all your question?
Please.
How did I find out about the job? Earl Theskin, who was the dean of the branch campuses, I guess, he recruited me when I was at the Fort Wayne campus of Indiana, Purdue University campus. And this was in the summer of 1966. And I forget exactly when they interviewed me, but I was here. I moved here then in September of 1966 to join the faculty here.
What kind of classroom did you have that first year in your
Classroom?
laboratory? Mm-hmm.
What kind of classroom did I have? It was a fairly large classroom on the first floor of Johnston Hall with a periodic table of the elements in the front and a demonstration desk also. The desks were like individual student desks, but it was a regular classroom.
Do you remember what students were like the first year? Were they all 18 years old? Were any of them older?
The ones that I remember, how do you remember the age of the first year students? They seemed, to me, they all seemed like high school age, young. There may have been some returning students also, but for some reason I don't remember those. The students were all new to college, of course, and so it was kind of a new adventure for me.
Okay. What classes did you teach?
What classes did I teach?
If I could pause for just 1 second. If you, rather than actually ask the question over, all you have to do is say that the classes I taught were, just to give context to the audience. That'd be great.
Do we have permission to continue recording?
Yes. The classes I taught were general chemistry and I also taught organic chemistry, but I'm not sure that it was being taught the first year. We also taught a pre-nursing chemistry course, and that may have been also after the first year. But mostly I just remember the general chemistry course.
Could you talk about the faculty and staff? How did they form a sense of family among each other?
Well, the faculty and the staff seemed to form as sort of a family unit, but it seemed almost automatic. This was all a new adventure for us, so we were all eager to get on with the project.
And what kinds of things did the university do to help the students? Were there any field trips, any clubs that the students had?
The only student activities that I can recall the first year would be the athletics. We played intramural games, softball and basketball, and we also took field trips to see the Cincinnati Reds baseball team.
Speaking about the student activities, I heard there was something called MUMstock, or some major concerts here?
Yeah, we had sort of a rock festival here. I forget exactly what year it was, but we had the Country Joe and the Fish and Edgar Winter Band up on the hill by Verity Lodge, and it was very much early 60s, or by this time it was late 60s, but it was a typical rock festival. And the thing that I remember about it is the hills were alive with music, is what I think of it as.
Before we started recording, you mentioned two people that you remember, or three people, Phil Hines, Rod Nimps, and Mike Pratt. Did you want to share any stories about them?
What I remember about Rod Nimps is that he worked in the student affairs office. I'm not sure exactly what his title was, but Michael Pratt, who was the dean here, and I think he retired this spring. He was a student of mine of one of the, it must have been a general chemistry class, I imagine. But he said he was worked in the stockroom as a student assistant. I don't remember that too well. And I forget the third.
Phil Hines?
Phil Hines. Yeah, he taught English, and he was one of the original faculty members, and we were very collegial in our relationship.
You were here from 1966 until 1989. What kinds of changes do you recall to the university?
The changes between 1966 and 1989, it seems like we're, the addition, one thing was the addition of the science building. I think that's what it's called, I'm not sure. And the improvement of the athletic programs that they had here.
Do you remember what new kinds of classes you could teach once the new building was created? Once the science building was built, were there more classes that you could offer?
I think the science building, I didn't teach in the new science building. It was built about the time I left here. So I didn't get to teach in the classroom.
I think I heard you mention something about computers.
Yeah, in the the computer room was started in the early 1980s, and that was my job for a while. Rather than teaching chemistry, we started out with key punch machines and a terminal that was connected to the computer at Oxford by synchronous communication. But later on, personal computers came in, and we got rid of the key punch machines. And but we started getting on the internet also with modems, telephone modems, and so on. So it was a fairly new project as far as using computers and computer-assisted computer education was concerned.
I heard stories about children being able to do science classes here. Do you remember any of those?
They used to bring in children, I think, from the Catholic high school, I forget the name, to do orientation on the computer. And I forget who instigated that, but we used to bring in children into the computer lab for computer education.
Mm-hmm. And do you remember working with the nursing program?
Yeah, we taught I think we taught a special course for nurses in chemistry, and I forget exactly the name of the course, but we worked very closely with the nursing department here as far as nursing education was concerned.
Another name that comes up frequently is Ola Mae Pearson. Do you remember any stories about Ola Mae?
Ola Mae Pearson worked in the mailroom downstairs, and I think she had a sister. I think her name was the name escapes me right now, but she worked in the student assistant office upstairs in the early years. But Ola Mae and I were good friends and saw each other quite a bit.
Are there any experiments that you remember teaching students that went well or maybe not so well, or some students did not follow all the directions?
Well, I think one of the experiments in organic chemistry that we had, I think we were making something like a nitrobenzene, which is related to TNT, trinitrotoluene. But I remember one of the experiments blew up and the thermometer hit the ceiling. So we had a little excitement that way. I didn't know that benzene was going to be nitrated that much that it would become dangerous. But that was one dangerous experiment we had in organic chemistry.
Did students do any chemistry research here?
Yeah, at the time I was working on my own research was in copper bromide complex ions. And a couple of the students would help me with some of the routine analysis of copper and bromide in the test solutions that I was using. So some of the people got involved with that.
Did the university help you conduct your research while teaching so many classes here?
The university, the chemistry department at Oxford worked very closely with me and provided me with instrumentation and chemicals and other things that I needed to do my research here.
Do you recall any publications that you had or any conferences you attended?
One of the, it wasn't exactly a publication, one of the presentations I made was at Ohio State University at the Midwestern Regional Chemistry Conference. And I was talking about one of the, excuse me.
We can stop for water if you'd like.
One of the copper bromide complexes, Cu2Br2 plus 2, that I was working on at the time. I also gave a paper in Cleveland at one of the local Midwestern regional chemistry conferences that I remember.
So teaching at a community-based campus, at a regional branch campus, did not get in the way of being an active scholar.
No, being here at a regional campus or a community college, you were encouraged by the chemistry department in Oxford to do active research.
Did that affect your teaching?
The research, if anything, was helpful to my teaching because it really kept me up to date.
Do you know if any of your students became professional chemists or continued in science careers?
Some of the students that I've kept in contact with some became MDs. One student I remember is in Merced, California, and he is retiring this year. Another student, ex-student, is a dentist here in Middletown, and another one, I think, from Trenton, got a degree in oceanography and ended up in California. But there are some others, I'm sure, that ended up with PhDs or MDs of that kind.
When this campus was planned, the community wanted a place where their children could have access to quality education. Do you think that dream of access actually happened?
Yeah, I think the Middletown campus did provide access to quality education for the young people here in Middletown.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with us today?
Well, I remember the campus as being beautiful, and we used to we used to walk, my children and I used to walk our dogs on the bike hiking trails on the campus here. And we even used to have a garden for the faculty where we could raise vegetables and so on. And also, of course, the tennis courts. We played tennis, and we also bicycled a lot. So just the campus itself, which was donated by, I think, Armco Steel Company, I think is beautiful and a very positive thing for the university.
Okay. Anything else?
I can't think of anything.
Do I have your permission to discontinue this interview?
Yeah. Yes,
Thank you.